All right. Good day and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Live the Fuel show. So today, once again, we are bringing back one of our new 2018 returning co-hosts. This gentleman is the creator of The Drop, A Man's Pursuit of Purpose Through Masculine Practice. His website domain to find that is his name, Travis Roznos. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me back.
So we were about to go off on a tangent, which is why I need to hit record right away because this happens. That's why we vibe so well. That's why you're one of my welcomed new returning co-hosts. And for our newer listeners, the reason why Travis was added to the lineup is he's a part of a unique methodology. I've been wanting to use that word today, methodology. Travis, how would you like to catch up our newer listeners on this interesting methodology that you and I were just joking around about in reference to how you closed out your 20s a few weeks ago?
Yeah. Closed out my 20s running a workshop here in Austin, Texas last Saturday. And it's the Wim Hof method. So you think about the Wim Hof methodology as a form of yoga that induces an activated state through controlled breath practice and focus, meditation, and gradual exposure to ice cold water. So those three elements together are a very practical way to basically hack the autonomic nervous system, to increase the strength of the immune system, and to basically tap your inner strength at all levels, to the cellular level even.
I was actually going to say, I was waiting for this here, the cellular thing, because this is, would you say, because I haven't been through your training, I mean, would you say that this method, because I agree with the cellular level, we talk a lot about cellular level stuff on this show, actually, in many different ways. So would you say that this ice training, the cold training, could actually literally tap into maybe the mitochondrial level of our cells? I don't know how much they've ever talked about science in your training methods, but I know the mitochondria at the depths of our cells is literally like the energy, like the power plants. So like our body's full of millions of cells, and within those cells is mitochondria. And we're always trying to find ways nowadays to kind of hack that and optimize that, improve its health, improve its power, its energy. So I'm just wondering, was that ever discussed in your training to become an instructor in that method?
Yes.
Sweet.
Of course, because as complicated as the human organism is, there's many processes and systems and layers that are all working together. And a lot of those processes are, I guess, involuntary, right? Out of our control to a certain extent. Some of them that we do control, and that's whether we're in a gas pedal moving forward, action taking mode, or a more calm, resting, grounded mode.
Okay.
And the cell, the mitochondria is that brain and energy hub that's taking on all these processes, right? Where forever it was basically said you can't really voluntarily influence what's going on with those processes. The method actually has science to prove essentially that it does allow you to voluntarily influence, or at least control through controlled breathing, those processes. And the ice bath, you can think of the ice bath as one of the better, nature's best offering for us to train our circulatory system, right? Our cardiovascular system. Like we train our muscles, right? A lot of people go, we train those things, but
you could tell my shirt right now is actually still sweaty because I love being transparent, because I literally just arrived back to fire this up. And I came from doing CrossFit. Actually, as of last night, the CrossFit Open has launched. And so that means every week for the next how many weeks, CrossFit, the organization, releases an official workout that we all around the world get to compete in. So I just got done doing the first one. So again, training and strength and muscle and sweat fest. But I like to tap into what you're hitting on right now, just because like I'm hot, I'm sweaty, but there's definitely some benefits to cold therapy that a lot of these people are trying to figure out and hack. So,
yeah, and we're at very early stages of this, actually. For decades, a lot of the research had shown just the the downsides to really extreme cold temperatures, like hypothermia, but that's extended, like if you're submerged for 20 minutes or more. And so it's really only 8 years ago where there's a lot more research coming out around what are the short-term benefits, right? Submerging yourself in only, 2 to 10 minutes, and a lot of benefits. So.
Well, I mean, I could definitely say that I've attempted the what some places call it the polar challenge. They do it for like fundraisings. I've done that for charity. It's when you're not used to maybe your training.
It's intense. It's intense.
Yeah. I still can't put it into words after all these years. Because it's funny, you've been on the podcast before, but I haven't brought that up. I was like, oh yeah, I've done one of those polar plunges, polar challenges, whatever.
You didn't tell me. When I make it out your way, we'll be doing some cold water stuff.
That's scary. Are you bringing the cute pool?
Yeah, we'll get you a nice.
What do we hashtag as? Cute man bath.
Hashtag cute man bath. Yeah.
What am I referencing? I'm obviously this goes back to how we started the episode. I was referencing how you closed out your 20s and you did a workshop, but this workshop involved a hashtag cute man bath. Let's please define this for our listeners.
Yeah, some of the best pools, like these workshops we run, right? They're in a lot of major cities. There's probably 30 instructors in the United States. You can go to wimhofmethod.com and see if there's something near your town, wherever you live. But it's a 5-hour experience. Obviously, at the end, everybody gets prepped and mentally strong to take on the ice bath, right? And as an instructor, it's so much easier for us to just use a blow-up pool that's like smaller and like a kiddie pool. So, it's always like going on Amazon, and a lot of our instructors have just these like cute, like flowery pools, which that's what I have. I have a nice little bug.
There you go. For our listeners, we do video sharing on the YouTube channel, and I'm currently showing his Instagram, which you can find him at Travis Roznos, on Instagram, and you can find this. So it's not really flowery. It looks more cartoony. Looks like there's like a little fish print. Oh, there's some flowers on there. Yeah, there's a flowery amoeba on the side there.
Exactly.
But that guy looks very chill. I mean, not just physically chill, but eyes are closed. He looks very meditative. I don't know. How long was he in there for?
Yeah. That's my guy Travis, actually.
And another Travis.
Yeah, he was experienced with the method. So for him, he dropped right into that calming state. 2 minutes in the bath there. And
now, how long was he in? You're just doing 2-minute intervals, or
yeah.
Okay.
Or it's just a 2-minute ice bath for most people.
Okay. And so here's interesting, because I'm looking at, there's 2 other gentlemen in the Instagram photo behind you, but I can't see their heads. And I'm just looking at, pardon me, I'm looking at body physique. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm being ageist or ageism or whatever. But I was like, okay, those guys look older. So do you find that people embracing flowery, icy man baths and actually the science behind Wim Hof method, do you find it's more taken on by the older generation? I don't know, the older generation, how else I got to put it. So baby boomers.
No, it's a good question. What we know so far is it's definitely more men. Like 80% men go to these workshops around the world. They feel called, I think, to take on this ice bath, and it ends up being an entirely different experience, mostly spiritual, actually. But they go into it being like, we're going to conquer the ice bath, and it becomes this a different experience oftentimes. And I have noticed the instructors were much, I think, younger, and it was definitely younger, I think. My workshop had a few older individuals, and I think a lot of other workshops too. It's becoming one of those things where I think older people that want to really get serious about taking care of themselves, it's a really aggressive but like exponentially healthy way to do it. It's way different than just eating right. And it's way different than like athletic performance. Mm-hmm. It's a total mind-body connection. And as you mentioned, like cellular health practice. bipolar, Lyme's disease. We're talking a lot of diseases that they've done studies with the method that have proven like this is a very practical way that you don't need to take medication. You can just do this method. So there's a lot of that. I think awareness amongst the younger people has yet to even really begin. Talking to younger people around Austin, even in Los Angeles, a lot of I'm on the dating apps, right? And I have,
are you on the swipe? What's the swipe one?
Yeah, Bumble and things like that. Yeah. A lot. I get 1 or 2 asks a day from like younger women that are 23 to 30. Like, what is that? I've never heard of it.
Right.
And
that's okay. Use the dating apps to drive new traffic to your website, right? It's like, well, you can go check out travisroznos.com exactly. Right. And study up on me.
Right.
Which actually, I never bothered looking. Hold on, let me share your site again because I do love your design. We're going to get to some decade discussions here, ladies and gentlemen, too, because I already dropped the hint about him changing decades. But have you built in? Because here's the thing: we've had you on multiple times on the show. I'm hoping to grow awareness around the Wim Hof method. Again, for our listeners, it's WIM space HOF. You can Google it. Or again, go to his website, travisroznos.com. And you have the workshops on there. You have the Lean In blog. And did you ever, I haven't dug all the way through everything in the site, but do you actually have explanations on here on what Wim Hof is? Or as an instructor, do they really prefer to have you send people back to the core Wim Hof method site, right, to be properly educated? I don't know. Do you have content on here?
Yeah, no, I don't. And that's for a reason.
Okay.
I'm primarily, I put my own focus of running men's work and men's group coaching. And the Wim Hof, I can have language, I can have pictures, but they do want it to be very separate. Like I have my own instructor's profile on their website. So
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's some guidelines where they like commingling, but they want it to be pretty separate.
No, and that's smart, right? I mean, we talk about a lot of business on the show. So, but it's real quick for our listeners. It's like, if you have a core brand, that's Wim Hof. That's him, right? And then there's Travis. So Travis can take the Wim Hof methodology as a certified instructor and apply it to his own brand and create his own school of thought and his own following, because each Wim Hof instructor is a different person, male, female, age demographics, personality traits. I get it. So that's good. I mean, so basically, if people would ask on here about Wim Hof and they're on your site, you would actually just tell them, hey, if you really want to actually understand Wim Hof at its core, definitely go to their site. I just still think it'd be nice to have at least a quick bio on Wim Hof, because I feel like you'd be tagging it back to them. I will tell you, that's actually a great trick too. Like if you want to make sure they're happy, you make sure you say, hey, if you want to learn more about Wim Hof, here's a quick overview. And if you want more detail, go to a site, because Google likes websites that link, right? That's why our show notes, I backlink everything to your profiles and everything else. Google likes it when sites are talking to each other. So
yeah, I should put his site link on the website. I don't know why I haven't done that. It's a good note. I should do that.
Hey man, just looking out. This is here. You're coming on here to entertain our audience and educate them on new methodologies. I just randomly drop knowledge bombs if I see something that I don't like, and I'm like, hey man, throw that in there. You don't have to do it. I'm just like, hey, I was explaining you the other day to somebody, like, what's a Wim Hof? What was it?
What is a Wim Hof?
What is a Wim Hof? Hashtag what is a Wim Hof? And actually, normally, until your bath showed up, I would actually go to Instagram and show him Wim Hof's crazy Instagram profile. Which again, listeners, I'll have, because we're mentioning his name, to respect Travis's professional relationship. We'll be linking that in the show notes on the website too, so you guys can come back and you can link to Travis, you can link to Wim Hof. It's no big deal. But and he's got a crazy profile. I'm like, there you go. He's doing yoga poses in boxer shorts on a glacier. That's a little surface level of what a Wim Hof is.
Right. Yeah.
But I love the fact that it is technically rooted in fundamentals like yoga.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
And I want to connect this, go full circle here. You closed out your 20s, right? Just after. Yesterday. Yeah. So happy birthday. Happy belated birthday when this airs. Whatever. Either way, dude, you're into a whole new exciting decade. So I want to set the stage for this, because how much do you think you learned in your 20s, right? Like you feel pretty confident, especially the past couple years. Can you just fundamentally fathom what the 30s are going to be like now? since I've already been there. So I'm just intrigued, right? Because like you and I are very close now. Like I'm like 10 years, but I turned 40 September 2017. You just turned 30 here in February 2018. So it's like, okay, we've got a nice little decade shift going on between both of us, just different experiences.
Yeah, I look at the 20s as chaotic,
Mm.
And one thing's certain, everything is going to be changing all the time, but I look at the 30s and I'm picturing a lot more clarity, and the way in which I learn will be actually minimized because I have a lot more structure in how I prioritize, what I'm open to, how I, what my passions are. Like there's more clarity, but I look at the 30s and when it comes to learning, like I think it's almost going to be more simple. That there's going to be a lot more depth to the experience for sure. But I'm seeing like this essentialist and minimalist approach to everything in my 30s.
I'm glad you're throwing in minimalism.
Yeah.
I learned that in my 30s, right where you're at.
Yeah. It was a year ago where I was like, this is definitely a lifestyle thing. It's not like just getting rid of some of the shit in your closet, but it's an entire approach to personal development, to how you run a business. Like just less is more in so many ways. But anyway, long story short, the 30s I look at as a way to slow down and actually just spend more time in doing things that create joy versus this chaotic.
Well, let's be real. I've been there, right? I actually say that now. As weird as that is, right? Oh, I got 10 years on you. I've been there, done that. I feel like a jackass just saying
you
that.
Keep bringing it up. So I feel
but
like
I'm aging myself, actually. To be fair to you, it's like, hey man, you're only 30 and I'm 40 now. I'm like, that's okay. I'm engaged. I'm like, oh man, I'm now actually officially getting old. I'm like, no, I'm not. I mean, go on. You saw that on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the new bling. And I'm not normally a trophy guy, but I'm pretty damn proud of that. So that was from the gym I just came from today. They had their internal CrossFit competition called Crush. And they do that like over the month prior to the big CrossFit Open, just to get people inspired and motivated to see where they're at. But also deep down, because I'm friends with the owner, he's like, no, it's also a way to get people physically fit enough, like to finally test them to see if they're ready to challenge themselves in the open so they know where they come in at. So it's very interesting. But I won my age group because I'm the young guy now. I'm 40. So here's an advantage of getting older with people. Right. Whether you run races, biking, skiing events. Like I'm like, wait a minute. I'm now called, in the CrossFit world, I'm called a masters athlete. So it's like, okay. So I'm the young guy. So I was like, wait a minute. I should be able to start winning stuff, right?
Yeah. No, you absolutely. I hear you on that.
So, but back to my point is, man, when I was 30, I had a lot of tug of war, dude. Part of my history. So I got excited for this podcast last night because I was burned out. I just got done traveling back from Buffalo, New York. And I was in Syracuse and then Rochester and then Buffalo, New York. So that's a huge loop of business travel when I drove. So I closed out in Buffalo yesterday at like 4:00 in the afternoon. I'm like, with gas stops and, food and stuff like that, it's like, that's a 6-hour drive home. Yeah. Normally 5.5. I'm like, well, I have a lot of time to listen to podcasts, audiobooks, whatever. But my client was in the car. So we ended up just working the whole way back and talking, and she's on my Wi-Fi. Nice. Anyway, the point is this. I got excited last night because I was like, I knew I was talking to you today. And I think I didn't realize this, but my fiance, she's looking at a new ski jacket because on the 28th of February to March 10th, I'll be unplugging and we'll be skiing in Colorado. So we'll be in Vail, 10 days of just... I'm unplugging, dude. Yeah. All the podcasts will be scheduled out and automated. If there's any social media stuff happening, it'll be, I would have scheduled it through my apps. I am unplugging. I haven't done a full unplug in a while. Nice. And I'm kind of excited by it. So, but part of this was she looked at a jacket. And I'm going to get to my point right now. She's looking at a jacket that we would wear for our wedding because, we're going to do heli skiing in Banff, Canada, right? Going to the cold. So, because we're cold lovers. So, and I forget what brand it was, but the model was called Fire and Ice. So it was a white jacket with like blue and red on her shoulders, one of the styles. And I kind of dug it. She didn't dug it. I'm like, you don't understand the balance between fire and ice and fire and water. And I'm like,
Sure.
I'm the former firefighter. And then you're the guy trained in cold weather training. And I was like, dude, it kind of goes back to when you and I had our first podcast together and we were geeking out, and you're in this launch, you're trying to grow the drop, you're moving to Texas. And that's when I was inspired. I'm like, I like your lifestyle jam. I'm like, I think you could be a fun new co-host. And things just started clicking, right? And then like literally last night, I'm like, holy crap, we're fire and ice, man. Like
fire and ice.
Fire. I mean, I thought I'd throw it out there. I wasn't sure if that would inspire you or what, but I was like,
I love it. It's like a goose and whatever, right on the.
Oh, Maverick. Now, first of all, that's actually impressive because like a lot of people right now, our millennial audience are going to be like, wait a minute, Matt, fire. Wait, hold on. Who's Goose? Who's Goose and what? Right. So we just referenced a classic, actually, I don't know if it's 80s or the 90s, but Top Gun with Tom Cruise. So
right.
Yeah, great classic movie. I think everything makes a comeback.
I dig it, man. Fire and ice. That's
well, because I'm always like my brand's being fired up and everything else, and it's one of these sub layers within your brand is Wim Hof, which comes from cold training. But also, people have to realize this. Like part of this cold training, and I haven't gone through a program with you, but I know that I learned about the power of breathing. I've done yoga, and like when I'm doing fitness, and I've coached CrossFit for a couple of years, and I'm always telling guys, I'm watching people like looks like their lungs are going to rip out of their chest. I'm like, guys, control your breathing. And throughout the workout today. I'm training against two guys who are way stronger than I am, and they're breathing like crap. And every once in a while, even though we're not competing against each other, but I'm like, guys, like every third breath, take a long nose breath. I'm yelling that at them in the middle of my workout because I tell it to everybody. And people are like, why is that always something you say? And I said, because I've been a cyclist for years. I'm an endurance athlete. I've done it in firefighting. Like when I take a long, slow, deep breath, especially through the nose, and I hold it, I can reset my heart rate. I mean, it just drops. So you lose that craziness. I mean, does that relate to some of what you do?
Yeah, and even in the workshops, beyond teaching because the method has a very specific controlled, breathing technique to it, right? It's a form of hyperventilation and breath hold retention. But I go into teaching box breath and other things.
Okay.
People can use to look at breath as a way to control their state and their system, whether they're at work and they're stressed out or they're, peak athletic, activity. And the breath is the key, right? To everything, really.
Well, do you know why I just brought that up? I'm going to go full circle again. You were just talking to us about relating to your 20s to the 30s, right? You're excited about moving into your 30s, looking for clarity, right? Finding more minimalism, finding more structure, and how the 20s seemed erratic. So I'm kind of relating that to inexperienced breathing versus maturity and breathing, right? I don't know. I wasn't sure if you'd make the connection on it, but I'm like, I thought we'd have fun with that because I know you've had some inspirations and some thoughts to move into your 30s with. But I thought I'd throw something as simple as that out there. Like our listeners don't understand the power of breathing. And I when you were talking about that, that's what I'm thinking of. I remember my 20s, I'm trying to hustle through the corporate world, to climb the ranks, trying to make promotions and salary upgrades and everything else. I've talked about this many times on the show.
Yeah.
And then as you get older, it's like, holy crap, pull your head out of your butt. You slow down a little bit. You learn to find minimalism, right? And it's like, wait a minute, things can get simpler. And the millennials are part of our target audience on this, not just the Gen Xers and not just anybody else, but Gen X millennials. That's me. Like I'm the Gen X guy. You're more tapped in closer to the millennial generation. So it's like, I want to make sure this is kind of a theme that's coming out, at least some of my inspiration from talking to you now that you're in your 30s and you're relating back to your 20s. So where do you think about all this?
Yeah, I think when it comes to, especially the millennial younger sliver of that cohort, like I think the common mindset for wanting more in life or whatever, the first place to start is usually like, oh, how do I do this? And there's a lot of strategy and there's a lot of like tactics and there's a lot of like
everybody's looking for the how. They're looking for the hack. They're looking for optimization. Yeah. We've all done it.
The quick and easy route. Yeah. And so when I bridge my 20s to my 30s, and it's there's more foundation in principle. And so all that means to me is that before I have to worry about doing anything or strategizing, you know, is what form of principle does it come from more of like who I am and being versus like having to do and hack something. And now breath is, although it's a hack when you get technical with forms of breath, like if you want the how to like just mature and like become more simple and kind of who you perceive yourself to be and kind of how you put yourself out there to be.
Right.
Breath is a great place to start. Like that sounds really simple, but it is extremely true. Like I didn't ever think about breath, and I was doing yoga in my 20s, but I still was doing yoga and was a lot really unconscious too of like the breath. I was there for like a workout and I was there for other reasons. But I mean, a lot of what I've done the last 3 years has been specifically, in addition to the Wim Hof, has all been around breath work. And when you have a good foundation of controlling your breath, a lot of other things become a little bit easier because it's so physiological, right? Like it's our entire nervous system and it's our health, right? How we breathe and how healthy our breath capacity is.
I can go ahead and relate right now. Our listeners can't tell this, but I can tell this because I'm sitting here talking to Travis. I'm a high energy guy. I'm guilty of this, by the way. So I'm going to go ahead and call myself out. Let's just look at how you speak. Whether we look at it or we hear it, to our listeners, like Less Power Podcast, and you can hear this. Travis, you're very composed. I mean, you're not erratic. You're not overly spontaneous. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you could tell that there's something to, you're at a different level with your breathing. And if you, because I've done a lot of public speaking and I'm increasing that more. In public speaking, they tell you like a cool, calm, composed person on stage and still being able to get through to the audience and not losing control, right? Not showing nervousness. Like this is all stuff they talk about, but do they really tap into something as simple as breathing to help you gain composure?
I love it, man. I love that connection. I love it. It's interesting. It's I've done, a couple of years too in this. The framework is, again, it's a lot of breath work outside of the Wim Hof, but we had a coach, for example, come into our men's group late last year, and he's actually a pretty famous actor. He's done very well in Hollywood, and he also teaches voice and acting classes. And he did a 2-hour voice workshop in one of our weekends where it was 80% breath, actually, of like, if you're going to have composed voice and you're able to express your full, like your deeper tonality of like how your voice can be presented, like breath was 80% of it versus, increase your pace this way and change how you, put focus on this, it was all breath really. So when it comes to how we are, if we're confident and how we, portray ourselves, like it all goes actually, breath is kind of the first place really almost to start with all that. But anyway, thanks for the compliment. I appreciate it.
Well, it's beyond complimentary, whatever. I'm losing my words right now, but it's that's the power of podcasting, right? Like, oh, wow, I'm losing my vocabulary.
You're a busy guy.
It's okay, but I'm cool, calm, and collected. I'm not freaking out about it. I'm just also high off of coming off that workout. But the what we're talking about here is this is something that I like to get through to people because, again, tying this all back into what we're talking about, you leaving the 20s, moving into the 30s, being inspired about finding minimalism. And there's to our listeners, guys, there's so many levels of minimalism. I don't brand myself as a minimalism guru. Like I have a microphone boom here. I mean, that's probably not very minimalist. But I geek out in different ways. Like when I travel, like I've just been traveling all week. I have one travel bag. It's made by Thule, which makes roof racks, and it's like more outdoorsy gear, but it's got an integrated laptop sleeve. I can just leave with one bag. That'll be my bag that I take to Colorado. my fiance will have a giant suitcase and everything else. And now granted, I'm putting my ski pants and ski jacket in her suitcase, or usually it goes in our ski bags. We fly with our skis out there. But I love being lean and mean. It's a challenge to me. Like when I bring my vitamins, I have all these little special devices to keep like my vitamins organized and everything else, but it's clean. It's simple. I've posted stuff up on Instagram just showing off how I travel, like little hacks and stuff, because my thing is this, it's all about finding what works for you. And one thing I love about what we talked about today is the fact that it's freaking breathing. I mean,
right.
All right, guys, like it's not rocket science. Let's tie it back to why we freak out in our 20s, because we feel like we have to hustle, go. And then next thing you know, you're 30 and you're like, what did I do? Because for me, I never got the way to go away to college. I worked my way initially through the first attempt at university and then at Penn State, and then got into a startup company and was like, oh, it's great. I'll make more money. I don't need a degree. And then years later, went back to school on nights and weekends. This is before fire. So I was just go all the time. And I was partying and having fun and stuff, but I wasn't, back then, I wasn't going on ski trips to Colorado. I wasn't even considering making my own logo and making stickers and hats and launching a podcast show and connecting with people like yourself. Like that was my 20s. I had my blinders on so tight and just trying to chase the ladder and just, I wasn't slowing down. I was single the whole time. I had shallow, quick dating relationships, stuff like that. Like, let's be real, right? Like you don't have to get to your 30s to connect on some of what you and I are talking about right now.
Right. Yeah. I'm inspired to support people to take on some of these principles earlier,
right?
than 30. I mean, some of the things I learned from 28 to 30, like one of the main principles, or not principles, but just, again, I have a few notes here on like kind of what I learned in my 30s, but like making a living is not making a life. And like, that really got heavy for me, like 27 years old, where I was like,
making a living is not making a life.
Yeah. Like I'm making a living, but I'm not really making a life. Like I'm just doing a lot, but I looked at this and I'm like, I wish I could have gotten more serious about that concept at like 24, like even just 3 years. It's, I'm grateful for everything, that happened and how it's all going down, but time is very valuable to us, right? Especially if you're conscious about the lack of time we really actually have. 3 years, like, man, if I could have been more conscious about around the ways in which I was making a living mostly and not really making a life, like I would have been very grateful for that insight, and how important it really is. So yeah, you don't have to wait till your 30s to figure out some simple things. Breath is a gateway, and it has been a gateway for me in a variety of ways. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Well, it's interesting. So this morning, before we hopped on this show, and I will say this, social media, when used the right way, can be a powerful tool. We've talked about this before as well. And I got one of those, because I already had a Time Hop app, but now Facebook does these throwback things and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to share this with you, because like this is totally tapping into what you're talking about right now. So I shared this on Facebook this morning. This is from 7 years ago in Arizona. My second year I was about to start my second year as a hotshot in wildland firefighting. And some of my fire buddies, right before the season, we said, hey, let's test where everybody's at physically, fitness-wise, and endurance-wise. Let's go do this 200-mile relay race. I'm losing it already. It's hilarious. I've never coughed on a podcast because I'm cracking up right now. I can't hold myself back, because I was like, 200-mile relay race, like, sure, sounds like a great idea. Right. And you can see this map here, man. Like, this was not just around Phoenix. Like, I don't know how big it is on your screen, but it was a long route. I mean, it was up here in Wickenburg, all the way down. And we were like west of Phoenix. And then you run up through the desert, up on the edge of the mountains. And then you're still not in Phoenix yet, through Scottsdale, and then down around it. And you end up down near Tempe, south of Phoenix. So,
right.
Just crazy. So the cool thing about this was, and this is what I didn't realize, was I forgot one of the reasons why we were doing this race. And in this, this was more than just, oh, hey man, bunch of fire guys. We ran 200 miles, right? It was a 12-man team. It was a great way to bring people together, do teamwork, team building. Because I've never done a race like that. I've done marathons and half marathons, but you literally run intervals. It's a relay.
Yeah,
so like I did the first leg. The first leg was over 9 miles, but then you stop. And we have 2 vans and you shuttle each other along the route and then you rotate your people. So it's,
oh my gosh,
you might not run again in another 3-4 hours. So I've never done that where you're all out and then you stop. And then you're sitting in a van. You're sitting in a freaking van and your legs are tightening up and then you got to go run again. So
that's insane.
And then at one point it's like 2:30 in the morning or something ridiculous, or 4 o'clock in the morning for one of my legs. I'm running through the desert with a headlamp on. And they warned us in the I'll stop sharing. They warned us in the race prep. They said, listen, the people who do the overnight legs, just be ready. You're going to be tired, sleep deprived, because you can't snap that, you're not really sleeping properly. Also, we found that some people kind of freak out running in the dark and they literally turn around. They second guess themselves. They turn around and start running backwards because they start yelling at you saying, you're going the wrong way. Like they said, if you're confident that you're going the right way, just keep going.
Jeez.
Just crazy stuff. But here's the crazy thing. I forgot why I posted this map and a bunch of photos. It wasn't just hey, we were doing this, but I went back and found the old album, which I had privatized on Facebook, and I found a comment in there. And I'm going to mention a name here right now. His name was Dalton Lassiter. And this is going to talk about how you said, we only have so much time on this earth. So Dalton Lassiter was a rookie firefighter like myself on our crew. I was the old guy because I was 31 and this kid was 18. And so he made it through the whole fire. I mean, this guy went to the fire academy. I went to a fire academy. He went to actual college fire academy. This kid was all in. Yeah. He had a twin brother, which was weird. I never, not that there's anything wrong with twins, but just, they were identical.
Twins are crazy. Yeah. It's like,
he was young. He was 18. He was still finding his way. He was overthinking everything. He was screwing up all the time, but he was a hard worker. So the superintendent, we were called, soup bitches, myself and him, because there's the superintendent's truck is like the leader of our pack. And then we have 2 big crew carrying vehicles. That's how hotshots live. We're in the back of these big metal boxes and all of our tools, all of our fuel, all of our, everything is, so we're a full mobile unit. So we can deploy 3 states away, just drive there. So the superintendent's truck is very, very important. It's like a command center. So he put Dalton in charge of it. And then he put me on it. And I'm like, why? I heard historically there's only one soup bitch. And then after months go by, I realized that I think he wanted me because I was older and he was hoping that I would rub off on him. I learned this a year later. Well, anyway, at the end of the first fire season, there was an unfortunate accident. He survived hotshot while in firefighting. He's at home with his brother in Northern California. And they were cleaning guns at the kitchen table. And there was a round in a chamber and it went off and his twin brother killed him.
Oh my gosh.
So not to bring this episode down, but
wow.
I forgot. I mean, I'll never forget Dalton because he was like a right-hand guy to me. We're fire brothers. We fought fire together. He was a pain in my ass because he would forget shit half the time. He drove me nuts. Wow. But so I forgot we ran that race in his memory as well. I found the comments back on that photo album and I'm like, oh my God, I forgot. I said in memory of Dalton Lassiter. And I haven't said his name in years. And I can't believe I forgot about that. So I wanted to tie that into this as I have chills right now because
you never know.
What you just said is really important. I want this to come through to our listeners. This comes through, I hope, at all different demographics and all different ways on this podcast show. And with what you and I share on social media is that we had to challenge ourselves. We have to live, dude. Like he had a whole fire. That kid would have been a career hotshot. He would have worked his way up to the top. I know it. Like I was just a 2-year adventure guy. Like I went out there, went to challenge myself for 2 years as the old guy on the crew. And then now I'm here doing this. So I knew that kid was all in, man. He would have been there right now. I know we still would have been in touch, but I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Not necessarily Dalton, but going back to what you just made a point on is there's only so much time we have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And thank you for letting me share that story. So
of course.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you sharing it. It's a really sharp and, clear example, right? Of like, you just never know, and like so much is going on in our world right now where there's a lot of reasons for people to trust the world and trust people way less and stuff. And that's unfortunate, because of how our world is working. But for people in their 20s, especially, there's so much opportunity to be distracted,
Mm-hmm.
and to really never, I mean, I even think like super aware and educated and intelligent people in their 20s, like there's still a lot of distraction from this concept, right? Of like, we don't really have a lot of time, and you never really know, YOLO, you only live once, there's all these things. And I didn't really take it serious too. And I consider myself more, I think, aware than maybe a lot of people in their 20s. And I still had a lot of blinders on too and stuff. And I really didn't even start really thinking about, how life is really short, and like how all my decisions and my actions and choices should like reflect my connection to that concept, that I don't really have that much time. And that didn't really happen till like 28, 29 years old. And now I feel it every day. Honestly, I feel it more and more every single day. Not even really in a morbid way. I'm actually super grateful with like my ongoing developing relationship with like death, and how I look at it, and how I'm going to continue to look at it and use it as fuel. Mm-hmm. Not as this thing that our society, by the way, looks at death as like a terrifying thing. Like most families, like, my mother, like with me and my grandmother, like growing up, being raised by just my mother and my grandmother, like I remember specifically so many times where they were like, let's not talk about that. Like, let's not talk about this event that happened or death. And that's really common, right? A lot of families do not talk about death. They don't, it's not looked at healthily or practiced with healthily, I think, in our culture. And it's a shame, because it can actually be used in a great way. Anyway, that's what I have to say, I guess.
No, that's good. I wanted to make sure this connected to you. And
yeah.
Okay. I'm all about weird stuff. I found the album. I got to share this too, because like
the album,
the photo album. Sorry. So real quick, I got to share this for you, just because I want to make sure this is, you're going to get a kick out of why I'm going to connect to you in a second on this. I want you, when I pan to the last photo, you're going to laugh when you see the number reason why I shared this. So there, this is my squad boss. This guy was this crazy hippie guitar playing dude. I loved him, man. He was Mike Watson's a wildcat, man.
Yeah.
Wearing the infidel shirt, and he ran in the deserts of Arizona with a freaking beanie on. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
But 1 second. So this is Dalton Lassiter. He was a goofball. This was actually a photo we took right before we got into one of these big old like Vietnam style helicopters. This was on the Mexican border, and we were about to fly into the mountains of the Chiricahua Mountains, which, by the way, that new I don't know if you saw. I don't know if you're a big movie guy, but the new movie that came out, the story of the Fallen 19, the hotshots that were killed in Arizona in 2013, is called Only the Brave. Only the Brave, it's called. And they mentioned the horseshoe fire in that movie. That was where I took these photos. So the fire they're talking about in the movie from 2010, 2011 was the same fire that we were assigned to with them. Wow. And we actually camped out on the same ridge with those guys who passed away. But Dalton and I were about ready to get on a helicopter. Wow. Normally we hiked up, but that day they needed us up there fast. So they were flying us up. Anyway, so that was, you have to have a chin strap on. So we were making fun of the fact that, the helicopter could blow your helmet off. And I haven't seen this photo in years. So that's Dalton Lassiter. Wow. And that's actually him. We're on line duty, making sure there's no fire crossing the line. But right there, dude, this vehicle's from the Ragnar Relay Race. That was one of our SUVs. So obviously we're doing it for Dalton. But look at the number. And how old are you now?
Yeah, man, 30.
I just thought that was kind of weird. Like just now I found the photos, I'm popping up for you, and I'm like, oh, look at that. We're talking about you turning 30, and our vehicle was actually we were called number 30. So anyway, just having some fun with that. So
there's yeah, man, that's
it's just funny we're talking about all this today. It just seems like we were meant to have this chat. So
that's great that you can reflect on it. Sometimes reflecting on things like that are not all that
And again,
fun
dude, in
can
my
be.
20s, I didn't think like this. I didn't connect like what I just did here. Like I'm feeding off of what you're going on in here, man. I'm like, dude, like I didn't think about photos with a number 30 on it and how it connects together and how we were joking around earlier about fire and ice. So I'm like, and now, I mean, that's something that I gained in my 30s. That's not because I'm 40 now. Like that's something that I gained. Like you learn. I mean, this is the power of maturity, right? But
Yeah,
I
sure.
also, I want to tie this back to your point. You don't need to be a Gen Xer like me or a millennial cusp guy like you know, or a pureborn millennial or whatever the newest generation is. I don't know what they're calling that, Z. But age is only a number.
Sure.
It's how we hack. If I don't use that word, it's how we hack life, man. It's be prepared to think outside the box. Don't follow the norm. Um, don't stay surface level is something that's kind of hanging in my head. So I'm just not sure if there's any other
It's really
inspirations that
hard.
were left in your head right now, as far as in your 30s now. But like, that's just something that I wanted to kind of mention on this whole decade shift thought
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. The thought process. Yeah. There's well, the biggest thing that comes up for me, like looking when you try to connect with somebody maybe in their 20s, there's all these like little mini windows, like 28 to 30 is way different than like 24 to 26 and 20 to 22. Because like our brains are still developing, right? Till like the age of 25, and there's all these new pathways being created. There's a lot happening. And maturity really comes from, if I had to like define maturity, it's almost like you need to experience life circumstances that are maybe challenging, and like very extreme in a challenging way and also in a joyful way, whether you're creating those circumstances for yourself, like consciously or not, right? I mean, because everything is like we create meaning, we create a reality. And so the big shift from like even younger 20s to the later 20s is the empowerment piece. Like most people aren't even empowered enough to know like that they can create how they look at the world no matter the circumstances, how they can change their attitude or their belief like no matter the circumstances. And a lot of people don't even ever get to that point no matter their age. The 20s is a great opportunity to like focus a lot on how to empower yourself to do that, because the sooner you really understand that, like, and because it's really simple and you can understand that at 22, 23, like you don't have to wait until you're later to do it. But we're so busy and distracted with so much shit in our young 20s where like we just don't have the focus to do it. And like my big lesson, like my last lesson on here, like would be find mentorship early, because mentorship will help you understand that point. Like there's a skill set and there's a way for you to create meaning and entirely empower yourself no matter what your circumstances are. And mentorship is a great way to do that. Because I mean, if I mentor someone, I'm 30 and I mentor somebody at 24 on all these things, like they have a fire hose to hacking and shortcutting all of some of the bullshit that we might put ourselves through. So mentorship, like if I knew about mentorship, but I did not seek mentorship out until later, I would have sought out mentorship 5 to 6 or 7 years earlier, for sure.
So it's interesting you bring that up, because this comes up in conversation often. I try and explain to people why. There's a lot of people who say, this is a great way to actually start bringing the show to a close too, but so people really understand this point that you just discussed. And I don't want them to like get distracted any more content, right? But it's the generational gap is real. People do feel that the younger generation right now, the millennials, are lost or they're lazy or they're needy. I hear it all. And I'm like, listen, I've been to some powerful millennial, inspired entrepreneurial events.
Yeah.
There's guys out there hustling and kicking ass and taking names. It doesn't matter how old you are, especially at Thrive, Make Money Matter, stuff like those events. And one thing I've seen is that it's the only difference is that they opened their minds up earlier. Yeah. Or they chose to search out the mentorship and leadership, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's the hack, if you want to call it a hack, is guys, I don't care how old you are, even me, I have to learn that I don't know everything, bro. Yeah, I'm older and I have a lot of life experiences, but if you're slamming your freaking head up against the wall in life and in business or in health, reach out for help.
Totally.
Get mentors.
Yeah,
or a men's group, something, or women's group.
Any form of support. I mean, like, come on, like that's the beauty of this whole thing, right? Is we're on a journey of learning till the lights go out, you know, to the end. So mentorship is that. I do think that's a lifelong thing for sure. I fully believe that, and will dedicate my entire life to mentorship in some way for myself and to mentor other people. So that's a huge hack, man. Oh my gosh, anybody in their 20s, it's like, find mentorship.
That's it. I love it. And that's for real. And your 30s too, right? Because now you have a whole other decade out there. And one thing I learned in my 30s was I started working with coaches, because every good coach has a coach. All right. We're constantly leveling up. The advantage of a coach working with a coach, or a mentor working with a mentor, is that you have somebody there also to call you out on your shit, but also to say, all right, have we tapped out that resource? Is it time to level up to a new coach or a new mentor? But if you're not at least working with one at some point, how are you supposed to know if it's time to even try a new one, right?
Yeah.
Right. Because if you're not working with any, well, you don't know where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a great time now too, because we do have a big shift in opportunities, I think, in mentorship, right?
Oh,
so
God, yeah.
It's a great time for connecting people in a container of mentorship, now more than obviously any other.
It's so exciting
in history, which is pretty great. Yeah. So
it's stuff like right now, you and I are hanging out on a Zoom call. If we weren't doing a podcast, this would be an example of how you can do mentorship or coaching. You don't, totally. if you're the kind of, again, listeners, as your hint, if you're the kind of person who needs visual stimulation, use a video platform or auditory, use Skype, use Zoom, you could do live video over Facebook. Okay. Again, going back to my point, using Facebook as a tool, you could do a Facebook chat over Facebook Messenger. I mean, or you could be old fashioned, just get on the phone.
Right.
Right. Like there's so many platforms and domains of support. We are blessed, especially here, first world style in the US of A. I mean, we have platforms, we have technology, and use it, you know?
Right. Yeah. Right on. No, I love it. I think we got into some really, I think potentially like really polarizing concepts and ideas, and like also really, really important ideas for you know, as myself, I'm looking towards the 30s, I'm looking back at the 20s. All the things we talked about today, I think are really, we're opening the knowledge jar for anybody that's in their 20s specifically, but also in their 30s too.
Yeah, but and I'll close out on that subject too, is like, I joke around, like one of the advantages of me launching this podcast is that I get to take advantage of this too, right? Like I'm not just the host, ladies and gentlemen. Like I get to end a phone call. I get to end a Zoom call. That's one of the reasons why I pick certain regular co-hosts, right? Like I have Dr. Megan Cannon, who's my sports psychologist. I got Aaron Sparrold, who's a sports nutritionist. I got you more on the lifestyle piece, even though we are all, depending on the episode, discussing health, business, lifestyle, different things here. But the point is, like, that's the other beauty of like repetition, is that all of us take something positive out of this episode every time we get together. And maybe it powers something through that day or through that week. So unofficially, this is almost like a unofficial mentoring or coaching session, but we're having fun. We're having a conversation, and our listeners get the benefit from that. And that's some of behind the scenes why this show exists and why I created it. And
yeah, that's what you're doing. That's so that your podcast exists as a great platform for references, and references are those stories and those little insights that we take from other people that can help us find ourselves in that story, or you know, it's beautiful. That's why the platform of a podcast is truly also amazing. It's an amazing time to be alive for.
And the beauty for you is like, people listen to this. Okay, so if some people are really drawn to Travis, awesome.
Yeah.
They can go back, they'll go look at the blog notes or just go to travisrosnos.com and you get to reach out to you, or they can start following you and then building the relationship through social media. And then eventually like, you know what, I might be finally ready to work with Travis. So some people aren't ready to go right away. But back to your point, like we'll have everything linked and backlinked. We talk about Wim Hof. We talk about, Thrive, Make Money Matter, whatever. Or when people are ready through the consistent digestion of content, they will eventually be ready to take action. And now, if nothing else, at least maybe this one podcast episode or many other podcasts out there can now guide people in the right direction. More reason why I promote podcasts. It's like, guys, like it's free freaking content.
Yeah, it's great.
Take advantage of it.
I love it, man. I love what you're doing with it. I look forward to being back on. Oh,
by the way, what do you think of the new hat designs? What do you think?
Solid.
All right. Are you? I know you have such fabulous hair. I'm not sure. I don't think you're a hat guy.
Yeah, I can't. I used to be a hat guy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
See, it all depends.
You're right. I have such.
Yeah, I have a haircut later today, but I mean, it's not going to be all nice and airborne as that. I don't know, man. So, again, ladies and gentlemen, we do stream this on YouTube. So if you want to know what Travis's hair looks like, please go visit the channel. It'll be linked in the blog notes. All right, well, Travis, let's bring this show to a close because I don't want to lose any of this valuable content so they can leave on a powerful note. You know how we end the show. Is there any kind of closing, all-encompassing? I mean, I'm actually excited to see how you're going to close out for final words because this whole 20s to 30s transition, I'm excited to hear where your thoughts are at and where you're at right now. It's cool.
I think we've said everything that needs to be said, actually. I think we knocked it out of the park with some really great concepts.
How would you sum it up?
I mean, look, summing up the 20s, I think is really about being aware that you're in a chaotic time. I think most people are, and the more aware you are that you're in some chaos, find some ways to slow that down. Mentorship is number one of that list. 2, if you want something easy, is breath work. Like as simple as it sounds, you can completely maintain control of your state, your beliefs, your entire experience if you dig into what's available to you in the form of breath work. And there's so much out there. There's the Wim Hof method. There is Kundalini yoga. There is Vinyasa flow yoga. But the breath is totally key to slowing down the chaos that can kind of keep you stuck or less fulfilled than your 20s could be. Like, I know we talk a lot about the 20s, but it's anybody obviously listening on the show that's not just in their 20s. But that's been a lot of the lessons I've had and a lot of the ways that I've been able to transition. So that's what I have to say on that.
Well, I love it. Well, hang tight. I'll give you a proper goodbye off the air. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to sum it up for me. Like, he just dropped a lot of bombs on this show. I really enjoyed this return conversation with Travis, but my takeaways out of his final words were, just because I'm a bullet point guy and I wrote it on my marker board, is like, I got breath work in my head. I've got, mentorship in my head, slowing down the chaos. I've got, what else I got here? I got, like nurturing your mind and your lifestyle. Age is only a number. His quote back from earlier in the show was, how he was really thinking about how making a living is not making a life. And final words from my own personal front, again, shout out to the family, the Lasseters of California, and in my memory of Dalton Lasseter. Obviously, the last time I got to see him was in 2010 when we closed out our fire season. So never forget the people that made an impact in your life. Don't hesitate to reflect back, especially if it was positive thoughts and positive memories, right? So, but again, ladies and gentlemen,
awesome.
That's another Live the Fuel show. So again, thanks for tuning in. Travis Roznos, our new and 2018 regular recurring. We're going to try and get this guy on every single month. So as I close out all the shows for this year in 2018, remember, you too can live the fuel. Talk to you guys again soon. And you're free of the pod.
Right on. Cool.
So
you continue recording the video and then post on YouTube, right? Okay.
Yeah, this is all extra content. So, because I want to reward YouTube a little bit too, because podcasting is so audio, and if people want to watch this video this long, you never know what comes up after the podcast. I think it's fun, so I like to differentiate. Like, I don't want it to be so identical. Like, okay, the video's a little bit different. It's more behind the scenes.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So
cool. Great show today.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But, oh man, thanks for tuning in again. So I'll be, this time next week, I'll be skiing in Colorado.
enjoy your time off, man. And really enjoy unplugging and all that. So, and then
It's all about I'll be doing some cold weather training and
nice.
and on skis.
Skis. Right on, man. Well, thanks for having me on, and we'll connect again like next month. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, check the schedule. I'll be back the 10th. So, because Megan, I need to get her on for a March episode.
Cool.
I already have Erin recorded for her March episode. So, yeah, man, we'll be rocking and rolling.
All right, man.
All right. Well, enjoy Texas.
Right on. Thanks.
Catch you later.